Welcome everyone to the 21st session of the Podium TED Talk series brought to you by Asiata Digital Labs. We are delighted to have you all with us as we embark on a journey into the realm of software development. Today's session will explore the art of requirement management in the SDLC. Our podium today is graced by three speakers who bring a wealth of knowledge and expertise to the discussion. Let me introduce you to our first speaker, Prabhavi Jayasiri, a senior BA lead with an MBA from the Postgraduate Institute of Management with 9 years of experience in the tech field. Next up, we have Surandi Deerasinghe, a senior business analyst with a Master of Business Administration from the Postgraduate Institute of Management with a total of 5 years of experience in the tech industry. Joining the two speakers today is Kalpanie Ponnamperuma, an Associate BA lead with a Master of Business Administration from the University of Bedfordshire. She has a total of 5 years of experience in the tech field as well. As we navigate through this enlightening session, we invite you to absorb the valuable insights our speakers have to offer. Without further ado, let me hand over the reins to our speakers. Over to you, Prabhavi.
Okay, thank you, Shora. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining today. And today we are going to explore the art of requirement management in the software development lifecycle. In the world of software development, requirements are our maps. So they guide us through the journey of building software, ensuring we are on the right path. So let's look at our agenda, how we are going to go through these slides and explain you the way of requirement management, how it is happening. So first, I'll give you an introduction about the software development lifecycle and how it relates with requirement management. Then we'll try to understand what requirements are and how it should be elicited and analyzed. Then we'll go to the requirement prioritization, how it should be prioritized, and then documents, and we are showing how to write user stories and requirement traceability and how we can manage a change during the project life cycle. And we will show you what are the tools and techniques that we are currently using. And it's kind of a practical session where we show all the way we are working with tools and future trends. So that is our agenda. Let's move on to the next slide. Right. So this is the introduction to SDLC requirement management. Let's see what is the software development lifecycle and what is the connection with requirement management, as I said. Okay, I know this audience is aware about software development lifecycle if they are coming from IT or technical background. Otherwise, don't worry about that. I will make it simple as much as possible for you to understand it in a simple way. So, in the practical, we will get real world practical examples for you to understand these technical terms and everything. So you don't need to worry about that if you are coming from another background. Right. A software development methodology is known as software development lifecycle. Think of requirement management as the process of understanding what needs to be built before actually start the development. So in the SDLC, requirement management part ensure that everyone involved in the project are on the same page about what the end product should do. Like let's make it further simple. So it's about, imagine you're planning for a road trip. Then requirement management in that road trip is like planning our route and make a list of everything you will need along the way. Like you may require snacks, your maybe fuel, gas, directions you require, everything. So those are like requirements. In the SDLC, it is about requirement gathering, requirement organizing, prioritizing all the features and functions in the software need to have that we are developing, right? So that is way of managing requirement. So it also, once we manage the requirement properly, it helps us to minimize the project risk, and also it helps to increase the quality of the software. Let's move on to the next slide. And this is to explain what is a requirement. So, and what is elicitation and analysis. So you may have heard these words, but I'll tell you what are the meaning of those words exactly. So a requirement is a specific need or a expectation or maybe condition that must be made by a software that we are going to develop. Also, it should fulfill the need, intended purpose that we are developing, right? So hence we need to understand the real pain point. In order to understand the purpose, we need to understand the pain point of the customer to solve or the need to fulfill. Hence, we can't understand it just by gathering the requirement from the customer. We can't just ask what is your problem and understand what is the requirement. So we have to dig into deeper. So we are not using requirement gathering term anymore. Earlier we used requirement gathering, but now we are using the term requirement elicitation. So this is because how do we truly know the requirement or the solution or the solution that we are going to build is right for the stakeholders or customer, for the organization? How do we know whether it fit or not? For that, we need more elaboration, and we need to more we need to go into detail and discover from the original requirement, original request that we are getting from the client. That is why elicitation and analysis of requirement is critical. So developers and the stakeholders, everybody has ideas, but the actual need of the customers are found in the magic of elicitation and analysis. Okay, right. Then let's see. Actually, elicitation is a discovery and progressive elaboration of understanding the needs of stakeholders and customers. It's not a difficult thing. So I'm not saying that requirement management or elicitation should be done by the business analyst, but whoever there are so many companies, business analysts are not there, but somehow they are managing these requirements. So whoever engage with the requirement management should know the importance of doing this requirement management related things. So so that is about requirement. So then requirement, we have two parts: requirement development and requirement management. Under requirement development, elicitation is coming, and the requirements should be specified, and we should analyze requirements given here, and we need to validate it with the stakeholders whether we got the requirement correctly. So that part is coming under requirement development, and under requirement management, we have requirement prioritization, estimation, scheduling, and requirement tracking. So I'll explain requirement prioritization, and requirement estimate is to actually, that meaning is how long it will take to develop. And scheduling means when or which iteration or sprint they will be taken to the development. That is the scheduling. And tracking part, requirement traceability part will explain by Surandi, and documentation part also will be explained by Surandi. So don't worry about these terms and everything. So we will go into details in Surandi's and Kalpanie's session. Let's move on to the next part, requirement prioritization. As I said, requirement. So when we have multiple requirements, it's sort of a let's think it's sort of a list. Then we have to prioritize those. What should come first? What is the most important part? So that can be based on the importance, based on the value, maybe the impact on the project. We can prioritize it. There are so many techniques that we can use in order to do this prioritization. You may have heard cost-benefit analysis, risk-based prioritization, and also Moscow method. Moscow method, it's not just a word, it's like a must have, should have, could have, and won't have. That means simply we can understand from the list of the requirements what should be the highest priority. Must have elements, must have requirements, should have requirements, what could have requirements, and then what we can eliminate, what we can remove from the list, from the backlog. So those are won't have things. So these type of techniques we can use, and this will be easier for us to allocate resources, and we can ensure the essential features to be developed are coming first and delivered within the project constraints. So that is about requirement prioritization. For this, I need to run a small poll for this session. After that, I will hand over this to Surandi. She will explain the documentation part and user story writing part. So let's run the poll first. You can give your answers based on your understanding you got as of now. Thank you so much. Now you can give your answers to this part. You will see the answer. Correct answer. You will see. Yes. Most of you are giving the correct answer. 88%. Yes. Okay, thank you very much. Let's go to the next part of this presentation. Yes. Surandi, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Prabhavi, and hello, everyone. So I will be explaining about the requirement documentation first. I hope everyone get a brief idea about what is a requirement and what is the requirement elicitation. So when it's come to this requirement management journey, requirement documentation is one of the main part of this journey. Why it is the main part? Because that is where we capture the user's need and the expectation, and that is where we convert them into a functional specification. So this is kind of the most important part in the throughout the project development journey and also the requirement documentation journey. So there is no any specific structure or a method how to do the requirement documentation. So it can be different based on the organization you are working, based on the project you are working. But there are some points that we need to pay attention while do the requirement documentation. So first we have to understand the audience, because the business needs, the business owners may not come in from the technical environment. So if we use a lot of technical terms to express the requirement and the functionality we are going to develop, client may see it as not as a quality work because they couldn't understand what we are trying to say. So it's always just be clear and the simple and just use non-technical terms when we are describing the use requirement or the solution that we are going to provide. And also, use a lot of visuals. That is a very quick way to represent what we are going to deliver to the client. So we can use mockups, we can use prototypes, and also we can use clickable prototypes where user can feel the nature of the system. And also we can use flow diagrams to give an idea about the journey of our system. And about when it's come to these project documentations, there are different kind of projects we have been working. So there are some projects that we have very fixed scope. We can refer them as the scope-based project. In that projects, we can use FRS, SRS, or the BRD structures to get the requirement documentation complete and get the sign-off from the client. But there are some projects that the scope is not fixed. We refer it as a ring fence project. In that case, we actually currently, we used to practice preparing the FRS for the every sprint, which is not practical. So now currently we are practicing Confluence, which is integrating with the Jira. So we have a backlog in Jira. Client has the access to backlog. So client can visit the backlog and prioritize the deliverables that they expect to deliver in the next sprint. And during that deliverables, the user story in the Confluence has been linked to the Jira ID. So client can use the user story, view the user story, and prioritize based on the user story in the backlog. So this is one of the practical practice we are currently using. And also there can be some project that we call R&D, research and development projects, where you don't have a client in outside, but you have a product owner within the organization. So in that case, product owner do the research and identify the target audience, what are the highest demand features of the research and the product they are going to development, and they create a roadmap for that. They are not directly going to prepare a FRS or a user story. First, they create a roadmap. And that roadmap, they specify what are their first 3 months target, what are the first features they are going to develop, and what are their 6-month targets. Likewise, we can define in the roadmap. And also, with this documentation, while we are improving the requirement documentation, there is another document that we have to improve parallelly. That is our rate log. So in here, generally it's a RAID, but we are using double A's. It's like a risk, assumptions, action items, issues, and the dependencies. So this rate log also improving throughout the project journey. In the requirement elicitation journey, we can identify what are the assumptions, what are the risks or the dependencies that engage with those requirements. And also during the project journey, it will be updated. Never it will be reduced. Of course, it will be increased during the project journey. So also, another part about this requirement documentation is about the maintaining the documentation history. So you always have to keep a track of what are the requirements and how it begins, how it as it now, and what are the changes happen during this time phase. So this version control and also sending meeting minutes. It's also very important. When it's come to meeting minutes also, I will share these practical tips that I have learned through this experience. So usually we used to send attachment like Excel sheet, sending all the details in that Excel sheet, but we realize it's the time consuming method for us and the client as well. Now we are using this method where we summarize the meeting minute into the mail body. As you can see, we put the meeting purpose and the date in the mail subject, and then in the mail body, we will summarize who are the attendees, what are the discussed points, and what are the action items. And also, when we are putting an action item or a dependency, it's very important to give a responsible person and a target deadline. It never put like the client team or the ADL team, because then the responsibility is not solely on a one person, it will divide it. So it's always good to have a one person from both parties to take the responsibility to make sure these items are getting done by the within timeline. So moving on to the next slide, before moving on to the next slide, I will put a small question in the chat because everybody's know user story writing is the core part, the center part of the requirement documentation, just to get an idea how is your knowledge. Let's put a small Q&A here before starting the user story writing. Okay, I think 100% got correct. I think everybody got the knowledge then. So let's move on to the next slide. So user story writing, this is the core part of the requirement documentation. In the current industry, on the current practice, this is the way we are most of the time describing the functional requirement that we are going to develop. So user story is a very small description of the feature and who we are going to deliver this feature, like who are going to use this feature, and also what is that user going to achieve from using this feature. That is the small describe of the user story. So user stories also, there can be different formats. It can be different from the organization to the organization as well. And there are generally different formats in the user story writing as well. But I will explain the most common user story format. And this is that as a user, here we put who we are building this feature for. And I must be able to perform this action. What is the functionality that user going to be used? What is the action that user going to do? So that I can achieve what is the business goal or the value that user going to achieve by doing this action. And along with this user story writing, acceptance criteria plays a very crucial part because acceptance criteria will describe what are the conditions or what are the checklists that we have to keep check and done to achieve this user story to complete. So moving on to the next slide, I will explain through an example. Okay, this is a template that we are currently using to explain the functional requirements. So here we first stated our user story as using the current format as the user. I must be able to perform this certain task so that I can achieve this business goal. Then we put the acceptance criteria and then we put our flow diagrams and the user interfaces. When it's come to this example, this is a very basic example, user login. So as the admin user, I must be able to enter the username and password so that I can log into the system. So admin user is the one who's going to use this feature. And what are the actions? In the feature, they enter the username and the password. And by performing this action, admin user can achieve this value that admin user can log into the system. And then acceptance criteria, we describe how we are going to complete this user story. So first we need a UI to enter the username and password. So admin should be able to enter the username and password. And then there must be a component to confirm the username and password. So there must be a login button. So first enter the username and password and then click on the login button. Then what will happen when user perform this action? So user need to direct to the home page of the system. So these are the checklists or the conditions that need to be achieved that we can mark this user story as a done. And then we lastly add the user interface for the client reference. So this is a simple way of creating a user story. But when it's come to large scale projects or the complex projects, this acceptance criteria can be very, very lengthy. So sometimes the login part also then can be added, the two-factor authentications, forget password or the reset part, this kind of can be added in here. So let's move on to the next slide, Chaturni. So when it's come to this requirement documentation, I said that keeping a track of all the requirement and what's happening during the project life cycle is important. So the requirement traceability come to that point. because we have to make sure that whatever that we captured as a user need, and at the end of the project, we will get it delivered as a deliverable to the client. So always the requirement traceability important, because we need to capture and the track whether these user needs are captured under functional specification. And then we have to track whether these functional specifications have been designed and developed based on these acceptance criteria, user stories that we stated in the requirement documents. And then the test cases, that means the testing phases. So QA will prepare the test cases based on the functional specifications we have been given to the team. So then it will be make sure that we have captured the user needs on the functional specification, and it will be captured under the test cases and it will be tested. And then we will deliver that user need as a functional system to the client. So that's why the requirement traceability is very, very important throughout the project journey. And we can use different method for this requirement traceability. First one is the requirement management tools. There are a lot of requirement management tools in the industry, and Kalpanie will explain it later. And then the requirement traceability matrices. There are 3 types of matrices. First one is the forward traceability, then the backward traceability, and the bidirectional traceability. In the forward, we will make sure that our functional specifications has been tracked to the test cases. Like while they are preparing the test cases, they have considered these functional specifications. And the backward means once the test cases are prepared, we can map those test cases again into the functional, the backward. Okay, these test cases have been covered for this user story, and these and for this user story, likewise. And the bidirectional means that we are going forward and backward throughout the project. This is kind of a collaborative work for the BA and the QA. So we have to be make sure as a business analyst or the requirement elicitation person, all the user needs had been captured under the functional specifications, and it has been captured under a test cases where QA will test, and then it will be delivered as a deliverable to the client. And there's another method we can use for the requirement traceability. Moving on to the next slide. That is about the version control. So this is the simple version maintaining that we are being currently using for our practice. First one is the document versions. Since the requirement elicitation started, we are using requirement versions to keep the records. Sorry. As you can see, the initial version and then the updated version. Sorry. And then the if it's a scope is added or the scope is removed, you can add it as well. And then when the sign off happen, you can ask the finalist requirement is this. And then about the release controls, we can map our requirement into a release. So here you can see the production version is this, and it will be mapped into this requirement, and these are the scope we have been covering during this release. So we are sending this requirement to the clients. It's important to keep this track and sorry, give the clarity and the transparency to the client, what we have been doing with the requirement elicitation and what we have been developing and what we have been giving as a deliverable to the client. And then it's come to the last part where we can't never avoid this part. It is always come with the project development, that is a change request. Chaturni, moving on to the next slide. So in the requirement change management, so this part we can never avoid. Even we thought that we have finalized the scope, somehow there will be a change. So in that case, that always this requirement changes with effect to the overall scope. of the project. And also this will impact to the our rate log, that the risk will be increased, there will be new dependencies, and there will be any impact to the existing features. So when there's a CR comes, we have to consider all these items. So normally what we are currently practicing is when the CR comes, first we have to identify whether it's an actual CR or not. Then it's again come to the requirement documentation and the traceability. If we are not maintaining the correct requirements, and if we are not maintaining the track of the requirement, we can never identify whether it's an actual CR or not. Once we identify it's a requirement change, that means that means a new feature to the existing product or a actually new feature. We estimate the time, effort, and the resources that need to be allocated to this CR. So after we doing this allocation, we actually identify there can be delays, there can be new effort, there can be a new cost. If we are not going to charge these CRs, that can be a budget problem for the organization. There can be a lot of areas to discover in the change management. So once we identified and finalize this as a CR, we will hand over it to the client to get an approach. So we will inform client that, okay, this is the requirement track of our project, and we identified this as a change request, and we can accommodate this because we never say no to the client. So we can accommodate that. But here is the estimation. Here's the time we have to get to accommodate this change. So client can decide, we will give the approaches to the client. So client can decide whether we deprioritize the current backlog items and we deliver these CRs, or we will first complete the current scope and then we will move on to the CR. So client will agree and client will say the approach, okay, I want this first to develop. So we can expand our timelines, our resources, our budget, and get into the work. So always keeping a track of the documents and keeping the requirement traceability and requirement documentations up to date is very helpful when it comes to CRs. And this can be a very small thing, like it can be a renaming the labels, it can be changing the color in the UIs. Maybe that change you can absorb within your timeline and deliver it to the client without charging anything. That's okay. But anyhow, it's a change request. So capture it in the document it and keep the track of it. So moving on to the next slide, when to do all these change management process, if we need a requirement change management process throughout the project journey. So basically here, normally we use documentation, CM logs, and also there are some systems that support us to do the requirement change management. Kalpanie will explain that later. So I will explain what is we are currently doing and how we are currently document the CRs. In that case, you can see as an example. So we log the date and the sprint that we are getting the CR. And then we log what is the CR name and the description of the CR, that what is going to be changed. And then we identify why this change request that happening now, like why we haven't discovered it before, why client haven't discovered this before, why we couldn't discover it before. So sometimes it can be because of we did some scope reduction or the scope addition during the sprint, or sometimes it can be actually a new requirement. So then we do the impact analysis. So how we are going to this is going to impact to the existing features, and how this is going to be the non-technical terms like the timeline, resources, and the budget. And then, as I said, we do the effort estimation, and then we will get the approval from the client. So client will decide the approach for the change management or the requirement changes. Always let open the stage to the client to decide that. So then client will decide, okay, we need this before all the requirements are developed. So just we will okay to pay for this as well, just do it. So as wise, we log all the things here that we status. As I said, it's a UI change or a label change. We consider is that a non-billable CR, or otherwise we will consider as a chargeable or the billable CR. So this is how the change management process happening. And now Kalpani will explain what are the tools we can use for the requirement management journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Surandi. Now it's time to discuss the tools and technologies of the requirement management procedure. So in here, I have listed most popular requirement management tools in the industry, which is using for both IT and non-IT companies. So in this list, I can mention the Jira platform is the most popular platform within the software industry. So all these tools are providing a robust requirement management capabilities, allowing teams to capture, prioritize, and track requirements effectively. Okay, now it's time to do a demonstration on Jira platform. Okay, for that, I will share my screen. I think you can see my screen. So this is my current project which I am working in. We are managing our requirements and project with the Jira software itself. And I will go through the specific terms and stuff in this platform. Okay, here you can see for you I have made a test backlog. Backlog means a set of listed requirements which we should develop in the future. So basically the project backlog will be managed by the product owner. So if he get the new requirement, he can directly or as business analyst can directly add those requirements to the backlog. And then when it comes to sprint, so at the moment we are following agile scrum methodology in our project management. So agile scrum means we are taking set of development tasks and we are delivering those development tasks within agreed time duration. So that time slot will be called as a sprint. That may be 2 weeks of time slot or else 4 weeks of time slot. And here I need to mention another specific term which uses for the requirement management. It is epics. So epics will be a large chunk of requirement which can be broken into small pieces like user stories, tasks and other development issues. And here in here I have created a test backlog here. So I have added some tasks to this test backlog. So I will go through creating a new task now. Okay, you can click on this creating a new task and you can select any issue type here. So issue means the work item type here. So you can add a dependency and track that dependency to one person. And then you can add concerns, UAT feedback, suggestions, clarification, anything you can add based on this issue list. And here normally user stories, business user stories can be added under this story tag. Right, once you have added this, you can just add a summary for this user story. So for here I will add a small summary for this user story. Okay, user story 1, and here, and then you can assign to some person because of the configuration in the current project, the default assignee would be me. And you can tag the epic. So I will tag the epic too. So this user story would be go under location management module, right? And then you can add descriptions here. You can add story points here. Like that, you can add time estimations for this story. Like that, you can add most of the defined details under this story. And you can add definition of ready, definition of done, like that. So I will select the resolution because it's a mandatory field for this. It's the status of the user story, and at the same time, there is a special term for user stories named RCI. It's Requirement Clarity Index, right? It would be a number. Then I am creating this task like this. Okay, so like that, to the backlog, any permissioned user can add user stories or task or bugs or anything like that. So I will go through a completed requirement document which we are planning to develop in future in here. So like this, you can in here I've added epic link, and at the moment this is in the test. This is in the test backlog, and I've added list of information which I am documenting in the requirement at the moment. So you can add details in the direct description box, or else you can document your business requirement in the Word document, or and then attach this to the user story in here. No, as Surandi explained, I have documented acceptance criteria, pre-post conditions, user story, UI references, field specification, and other stuff. And also there are multiple features in this user story tracking. The permissioned team members can add comments by tagging team members. Like if a QA have a clarification on the documented requirement, he can directly tag me and type that clarification under comment box. And you can check on the requirement history, and you can do the work logs. You can log your works like that. And then when it's come to sprint creation, so once with the customer, you have to prioritize the set of requirements which you are planning to do in a certain upcoming sprint. Once that has been finalized, you can just create a sprint. From here, there will be a button named create sprint, and you can just put a sprint name. So I will add the sprint name, test sprint for Podium, and then you can add a sprint goal. That's not necessary, but it would be a feature to nice to have feature. And you can add start date and end date. Since this is a test sprint, I'm not adding those information. And then I'm moving that sprint to upward. Okay. Suppose I am planning to start this sprint next week itself. Then the client finalized and prioritized the requirements which should be taken from the backlog for the next sprint itself. Suppose client prioritized these first four requirements to be taken to the upcoming sprint. Then I can just move this task to the newly created sprint like that. Then on the sprint start date, you can do the planning and grooming sessions with the team, and then estimate story points based on your team velocity, and then you can start the sprint. So here I will show you a started sprint of my project. So these are our team members. This is the sprint number. We have already 16 issues, and this is an active sprint. Okay. And then the sprint has been started on this date. Sprint will be ended on this day. Basically, it's on the next week. So I have added the sprint goal. Basically, under this sprint, we are planning to do this kind of stuff. And these are the stories, and there are some tasks, and these are the story points estimated. Story points is basically we are assuming the complexity of the story based on the Fibonacci theoretical method. And in this Jira, you can see the active sprint from this icon. You can track the sprint's progress by this screen. So once you click this person here, you can see the work items that has been tagged for this person, and you can see the status of those work items, like to do, in progress, done. And in this section, releases can be maintained. Basically, the developer and QA releases would be maintained under this area. And here the reports, under report section, Jira provides a huge visibility on reporting reports of the sprints, like this. Okay, and then you can search issues from this area. You can see all the issues from the Jira sprint, all the issues from your Jira project within this area. And this test and test automation part will be basically used for the QA team. They can create test cases and test. They can create test cycles and stuff. This part will be used for the test automation. All these activities can be basically handled through the user permissions level in the relevant Jira project. So, Chaturni, let's go back to our slides. Thank you. So let's discuss about a real world example illustrating requirement management practices. So let's take the example for process of building house. So at first we have to identify stakeholders. So basically it includes client, homeowner, architect, engineers, construction teams, and other third parties, and gather initial requirements. The architect or project manager should gather initial requirements from the client about this house. Basically, client may have requirements like this: I need this kind of garden for my house. I need this kind of rooftop. I need this number of rooms in my house, like that. And then he needs to document those requirements, and reviewal and approval should be done with the client, basically with the homeowner, and changes can be done at that level. And then the architect can design the house based on the client's finalized requirements, and then again refinement and finalization of the designed house requirement would be happen in this stage. That's basically based on the client confirmation. And then we have to get the permitting and regulatory approval. That's basically from the local authorities we should obtain. And then construction phase. Construction means developing phase. The once the permit's in hand, construction can be begin. And then final inspection, quality assurance can be happen, and final inspection and handover part will be done once the development completed. And then next slide, please. And basically, lessons learned from the poor requirement management can lead to various challenges and setbacks of the ongoing projects and delivered projects. So here I have listed a few lessons. Basically, clarity is the key. Actually, the requirement should be really specific and clear to be understandable for both stakeholders and development teams. And engaging stakeholders early and often, and then document everything. Requirements should be documented as much as possible, or else it can lead to misinterpreted or forgotten. And then regular reviews and validation should be there, and those reviews can be done with stakeholders and with the teams. And then flexibility and adaptability. Sometimes requirement would be changed. As Surandi explained, requirement change management should be tracked here. Manage scope creep. Sometime requirements scope would be increased based on the market changes like that. So then that should be tracked properly, or else sometime leading on delays, budget overruns can be happen. And learn from mistakes. Basically, the teams should understand what went wrong and what are the areas to be improved. And then let's move to the next slide, please. And then challenges in the requirements. So we have to manage change requirements properly. So all the time, most of the stakeholders are changing their requirements, so we have to manage it properly. And traceability and impact analysis, compliance and regulatory requirements, and technology and integration, tool selection. Basically, selecting a right tool would be difficult for a team, and communication should be there in the requirement process. So we are running out of time. I will complete my last slide. Future trends of requirement management. So basically, artificial intelligence can be really helpful for analyze requirements, to identify inconsistencies and analyze, suggest solutions like that. So nowadays, integration with agile and DevOps methodologies can be seen in requirement management procedure. And collaborative tools and platform. So sometimes some tools are collaborating with other platforms, such as Confluence is often conjunction with Jira to requirement documentation and other requirement management procedure. So, and visualization and modeling, that's basically requirement modeling techniques used by such as BlastMe, Microsoft Visio, Lucid chart kind of tools are using for that visualization and modeling. So, and then finally, there are some common standards and regulations that organization often use to adhere when managing requirements. So I have listed some of the compliance and regulatory requirements. Okay, then Chaturni, next slide, please. So these are the references which we have used for this presentation. Chaturni, next slide. So if you have any questions, you can directly ask from us, or else you can put those questions in the chat.
Yes. Thank you, Prabhavi, Surandi, and Kalpanie for that insightful session. I'm sure we have gained valuable insights into this dynamic field. Now let's open the floor for a Q&A session. And feel free to drop in your questions in the chat box, and the speakers will address them shortly. Let's give a couple of minutes for any questions.
Hi, Radhakrishnan. I think you have a question. Any questions?
Yes, I think the mic is automatically muted. So if you could just drop in your question in the chat box, the speakers would see it. Yes, here you go.
Yeah, one question is there. Any suggestion on how to tell the customer that their requirement is not going to be catered or not worth development effort? Yeah, I think, shall I answer this question, Surandi, Kalpanie? Yeah, that is also a common problem we are also facing because to our clients, we cannot say exactly. It's like we have some doubts to say it's not worth doing it. But as per our suggestion, the best way is to show them that this is not worth. Without rather than just saying this is not worth, we have to show why it is not worth, because we have other that is also coming under prioritization. So if we have the priority backlog and the proper roadmap, then we can say that this is not worth, because there are so many high priority elements that are in the backlog. So that is the best way to address, like with evidence, to address that it is not worth, or we are not going to cater for that due to this sort of reasons based on the context. I think, Hasini, I think you got the idea. Okay, then next question, how to negotiate with client? Yeah, the negotiation is actually a skill. Surandi or Kalpani, will you give that answer?
So I think we have to build a positive relationship with the customer, positive official relationship with the customer. So when it comes to negotiation, yeah, we have to all the time provide facts of what we are talking about. If we need to like deprioritize this task based on a reason. So we, as Prabhavi said, we have to provide facts when negotiating all the time. Is that okay? Surandi,
Yeah.
any comments?
Yeah, I think then again we have to understand the approach also, because we have personal experience that where clients sometimes prefer the WhatsApp communication over the email communication for some work to be done. If we are, as an example, we have a client that if there's a dependency or action item, that client would like to communicate it via the WhatsApp rather than sending an official email. So sometimes we have to negotiate that way. We have to first put on a chat and get the confirmation. Okay, we are sending this email, this is the deadline. Maybe it sometimes too much work, but sometimes it can be different from the client to client, and they are the nature of the client. And so we have to be a little bit negotiable and very adjustable with the approach of the client as well.
Yeah. And there's another question, and from an undergraduate who is willing to pursue a BA career. Really happy to hear that. And what are the important tips and advices you can give? Okay, right. I'm happy that you choose that path because most of the undergraduates are not coming into BA career because they don't they are not aware about this, the importance of this career. Right. So tips actually, if I give, we already ran out of time. If it is okay to give this answer, then I'm giving it from my experience as well, because when I'm coming to this BA career also, I didn't have any sort of idea about what to do, what are the industry practices, everything. So we learned from the industry, but now there are so many resources you can follow. You can first, I'm advising you, try to learn from internet. You can follow LinkedIn courses. There are so many courses which are published from IIBA and IIBA, and there are so many Udemy courses that you can refer to. Then you will get an understanding. Also, there are so many certifications, entry business and for the certifications that you can do for entry-level business analysis. So you can get those things. If you need further information, you can reach us through LinkedIn. We will give you some other specific tips and tricks that the things that you learn to come into this BA career. So I think as the initial step, you can get that thing to understand the background, and then from the practical aspect, you have to be very specific, and we can get in touch if you want. GT Vijay right? Is it okay to go through the other questions as well? Organizing committee, please let us know.
Yes, it's okay, no problem. You can take your
Okay.
time and answer. Yeah.
Okay, then next question. Radhakrishnan, okay. When there is a requirement is coming during ongoing sprint from the C-level executives, which doesn't have a big impact, where your sprint backlog is full with the high priority tasks, tickets, how the priority should be defined. So Surandi or Kalpanie, will you take that question?
Yeah, Prabha. So in our experience, if it's the coming from my executive level, and if you have the fact that this is the backlog we have, and these are the prioritized items, and these items have been in the backlog for this time of period, that's where the traceability comes. So you have to track the requirements that, okay, the client status, this user story is the critical one on this day, but it has been on the backlog for the 2 months now. We are adding requirements by time to time, and it getting deprioritized all the time. So you can show that priority items and how long they have been there, and also the RCI, that the clarity and the prioritization of the requirements. And also if there is a non-negotiable client that client stated that it's actually needed, you can follow the CR management process. So you can take it as a CR. And also you can state that, okay, this is a new CR that we are prioritizing this as you request. So this will require this my time and the effort. So we will deprioritize that you stated as the highest priority during the previous sprint. If it's okay, always get the sign off, always get the approval. Then we have to proceed, because at the end, it's about what clients want in the practical world. But always try to show the facts and try to talk with the evidence. Then that might be the clients also can be changed their mind.
So in that case, Rajakrishnan, so these should be communicated before you are starting the project. So we are maintaining this sort of change management log. We are prioritizing these things based on the priority we are taking into the sprint, and we are doing the development. So when you are giving us requirements in between that, after finalizing requirement, it will be go as a change request. Then we have to do estimations. We have to check our resource availability and everything. After that only we can take into development. So based on the urgency, we can consider that, but we have to deprioritize another thing in the backlog. Otherwise, it's not practical. So we have to explain that before starting the project. Otherwise, they will not accept once you start the project. They will think we are not accepting changes. That is wrong. So before starting the project, you have to explain to your client, this is our procedure, this is the process that we are following. So then they cannot, actually, if they are aware, they cannot raise any concern for your question. I think we gave an answer for you to understand, maybe to a certain level. Right, there are so many questions coming up. Let's go to one more question, right? Okay, one more question. So other questions, if you have any questions, just raise us and link in. Maybe we will be able to give you answers. So the last question, let's go to one question. How can freeze the requirements by the client? Example, after signing the URS, and when we develop customers changing, when we develop customers changing the requirement, how can we freeze the requirements by the client? Example, after signing the URS, right? Same thing, I think. Yeah. Here, same sort of an answer. So if you have a there are multiple types of projects actually in the industry. So mainly we have a fixed scope project. Let's say we are agree for the scope at the initial, before starting the project at the initial level, we are fixing the scope. This is what we are going to do. So we set the boundary. These are the things that we are going to do. There are some projects like you may have heard ring fence project, like they can it's running by sprint. It's running sprint by sprint. Then we after sprint, or we have a backlog where we can add requirements while we are doing the development sprints. So if you are doing like a scope-based project, fixed scope-based project, then you can get the sign off from the client. Once you finalize the requirement, you have to document it. Then you have to get the confirmation from the client. Once you get the confirmation, you are not changing anything. If you are changing it, you have to go through the same approval process to change it. But once you get the approval, only we are allocating resources. We are setting budgets and everything. So you can't accept changes if that is a scope-based fixed scope project. So we have to that is also we have to agree with the client before starting the project. So change management is also another thing that you can implement. That means when project started, if requirements are coming newly, then you have to add it to the change management log, and you have to maintain it while you are doing the project. So add it as a change request. Then you have to estimate for that change. You have to set the priority for that change, and you have to add to the scope. That is the normal process that we are following. So you can't stop getting new requirements. It's a natural thing. We always have to accept changes, but we have to have a proper process. I think we answered your question. Are we taking any other questions? How to contact you all and connect with advisors and opportunities? You can follow us on LinkedIn. So you can send us messages. We will reply you as much as possible. And thank you so much, ma'am, thank you so much for joining, and thanks for your feedback. And question 3, Raji Krishnan has so many questions. It would be great if you could, the exact responsibility of the BES in terms of their designations they are assigned with senior BA, BA lead, product manager. Right. So Raji Krishnan, it is not specific, it is differentiated from company to company. In our company, in our organization, senior BA responsibilities are different from another company senior BA responsibility. It's just a designation. It's just a name. Responsibilities, you have to check exactly with your organization what are the responsibilities, duties that you have to do, and you have to adhere to that. It is defined from the company. We cannot say exactly these are the things that you have to do as a senior lead, senior BA, lead BA, or product manager. And next question is, any suggestions on AI tool that BA can use in addition to ChatGPT? ChatGPT. Any AI tools? Any idea? Surandi, Kalpanie, Muhammad is trying to automate BA process, I think, with AI tools. Yeah. Any suggestions? Actually, I don't have any idea about AI tools. Like, document in terms of documentation perspective, actually BAs are there to understand customer pain points. I don't think it can be done by any AI tool or any technical device, because people can understand people's pain points. So I think BA or some person should be there to understand that. For documentation, we can use any AI tool. At the moment, there's nothing coming into my mind other than ChatGPT. ChatGPT we can use for user story writing, acceptance criteria writing, finding non-functional requirement, get suggestions for non-functional requirements and everything. But I don't think any AI tool can replace BA's work.
Yeah. Yeah, that's correct, Prabhavi.
Okay, I think we have answered all of your questions. Utpala, thank you so much for your feedback.
Okay, great. Thank you to the speakers for answering the questions, and thank you for everyone who asked their doubts and questions as well. So before we wrap up, a big thank you to our speakers today for sharing their expertise with us today. We appreciate your time and knowledge, and thanks to everyone who joined this session. I hope you gained valuable insights into this field and the topic, and looking forward to seeing you all at our future podium sessions as well. And thank you very much. Have a great day.